In part 1, we covered 9 locations that have been quietly killing people for decades. A burning road in Bolivia, a Soviet nuclear dump that looks like a garden pond, a crater in the desert that's been on fire for over 50 years. If you haven't seen it, go watch it first. The link is right there. If you have, welcome back. Because what I'm about to show you in part 2 is, by my own assessment, worse. 7 more locations, starting with a lake in West Africa that killed nearly 1,800 people in a single night, silently, invisibly, while they slept. And ending with something so large, so powerful, and so close to home that most people don't even register it as a threat. Same rules as last time. Every location is real. Every death toll is documented. No legends, no myths. Just places where the Earth stops caring whether you make it back. Number 1. Lake Nyos, Cameroon. On the night of August 21, 1986, the residents of the villages around Lake Nyos in Cameroon went to sleep as they did every other night. By morning, 1,746 of them were dead. So were 3,500 cattle and every other living thing. Birds, insects, small animals, across miles in every direction. No explosion, no earthquake, no fire, no visible warning of any kind. The lake had exhaled. Lake Nyos sits in a volcanic crater. For centuries, CO2 from magmatic activity below had been dissolving into the deep water under pressure, the same way carbonation is forced into a soda bottle. On that August night, a rock slide disturbed the water column, triggering a limnic eruption, a sudden, catastrophic release of all that dissolved CO2 at once. An estimated 0.3 cubic miles of carbon dioxide burst from the lake's surface in a single event, generating a gas cloud that flowed downhill at roughly 60 miles per hour, following the valleys, pouring into every low-lying area it could reach. CO2 is colorless, odorless, and heavier than air. It displaces oxygen at ground level. You breathe it, nothing registers as wrong. And then you lose consciousness. Most victims were found in the exact positions they'd been in when they died. Sitting in chairs, lying in bed, walking along paths. The gas moved faster than they could react. Some survivors described waking up 36 hours later, surrounded by bodies, with no memory of what had happened. Lake Nyos is still there. It's still accumulating CO2. Degassing pipes were installed after 1986 to slowly release the buildup. But the system is underfunded and monitored by a small team. Another limnic eruption is physically possible, and the next one may have no warning at all.
Devil's Pool, Victoria Falls. The photographs look insane. People floating in a natural infinity pool, apparently hovering at the edge of one of the world's largest waterfalls, just a thin shelf of rock between them and a 355-foot drop to the gorge below. Devil's Pool is real. It looks exactly like the photos, and people really do go there. During low water season, roughly September through December, a natural rock barrier forms at the lip of the falls, creating a pool where the current is technically survivable. Guides bring tourists. People swim to the absolute edge and peer over. There's an entire commercial tourism industry built around it. But the current isn't uniform. It isn't predictable.
In 2009, a tour guide was swept over the edge during what was supposed to be a routine swim. His body was recovered below. And the falls aren't the only threat. The Zambezi River is home to Nile crocodiles, some exceeding 16 feet, and hippos, which kill more humans in Africa every year than any other large animal. Territorial, aggressive, capable of 20 miles per hour on land. Swimming at Devil's Pool means accepting all of those risks simultaneously. The question isn't whether it's dangerous. The question is whether the photograph is worth it.
Marshall Islands, Bikini Atoll. Picture a perfect tropical atoll. White sand beaches, crystal water, swaying palms, brilliant sunshine. Now understand that walking on that beach will expose you to radiation levels comparable to Chernobyl. Between 1946 and 1958, the United States detonated 67 nuclear weapons on and around Bikini Atoll, including Castle Bravo in 1954, a thermonuclear device 1,000 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Castle Bravo vaporized 3 islands. Completely. They ceased to exist. The blast contaminated over 7,000 square miles of ocean, including inhabited islands whose residents had not been evacuated. A 2019 study by Columbia University found soil samples on Bikini Atoll with cesium-137, strontium-90, and plutonium concentrations that exceed international nuclear safety limits. The coconuts growing there are radioactive. The fish are radioactive. The sand itself is radioactive.
You don't have to eat anything. You don't have to swim. Standing on the beach is sufficient for your body to begin absorbing dangerous isotopes. In 1977, the US attempted cleanup by constructing the Runit Dome, a massive concrete cap over 110,000 cubic yards of radioactive soil and debris. The dome was never designed to be permanent. It's cracking now. Radioactive water is already leaching into the surrounding Pacific. The Marshall Islands are sinking due to rising sea levels. When the dome floods, and scientists say it's inevitable, everything inside it enters the ocean. This isn't a hypothetical. This is a scheduled event. The only unknown is the date.
Vozrozhdeniya Island, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. You cannot visit this place. The government doesn't want you to. And if you somehow got there, the environment itself would continue what the government started. Vozrozhdeniya Island, Renaissance Island, sits in what remains of the Aral Sea. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union chose this isolated location for weapons-grade biological agent research, the kind of work considered too dangerous even for their classified military laboratories. Anthrax, smallpox, plague, all engineered, all modified for maximum transmissibility and lethality, all tested here, far from any civilian population, on an island surrounded by a shrinking sea. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the facility was abandoned in weeks, equipment left behind, records burned. The biological material, according to declassified documents, buried in mass graves across the island.
Here's where it becomes catastrophically worse. The Aral Sea has been shrinking for decades due to Soviet-era irrigation diversions. The island is no longer an island. It is now connected to the mainland by a land bridge. Rodents, fleas, insects, all can now freely access those burial sites. They can carry whatever remains viable in those graves into human populations. Modified bubonic plague, engineered to be more infectious than the medieval strain that killed 50 million Europeans, could theoretically move through a vector population today. In 2002, the US government funded a partial decontamination effort. Partial. No one knows what's still in those graves. No one has a complete inventory of what was buried. And the geographic containment, the sea itself, is gone.
Centralia, Pennsylvania, USA. In 1962, a fire started in a coal seam beneath the small town of Centralia, Pennsylvania. It's still burning. What began as a controlled burn in a landfill at the edge of town ignited an exposed vein of anthracite coal running through an underground network beneath the entire borough. The fire spread through that network, underground, invisible, expanding through every connected seam. By the 1980s, the effects were impossible to ignore. Sinkholes opening in backyards, street surfaces at 100 degrees on cold winter days, carbon monoxide concentrations in homes reaching toxic levels. In 1981, a 12-year-old named Todd Domboski nearly died when a sinkhole opened beneath his feet in his grandmother's backyard, dropping him into a steaming pit. He survived by grabbing a root.
The US government spent $42 million relocating residents. Today, Centralia's population is fewer than 10 people, down from 1,100 in 1981. The streets still exist. Street signs still stand. Curbs, sidewalks, fire hydrants, all infrastructure for a city that no longer exists. Underground, the fire burns. Geologists estimate it could continue burning for another 250 years. Centralia isn't dramatic the way a volcano is dramatic. There are no visible flames most of the time. Just cracked pavement, steam vents, the permanent smell of sulfur. A ghost town being consumed from below, slowly, continuously, without anyone watching. It's the slow apocalypse, the kind that happens while everyone looks the other way.
Bolton Strid, England. This is the place I mentioned at the start. The River Wharfe in Yorkshire runs wide and smooth for most of its length, a perfectly normal English river. But at a point called the Bolton Strid, the river compresses into a channel barely 6 feet wide, forced through a narrow geological formation. The same volume of water, a fraction of the width. The water is deep beyond reliable measurement at this point, moving through a complex system of underwater caves and channels carved by thousands of years of erosion. It looks like a stream you could jump across. It looks like something a child could leap over for fun on a Sunday afternoon. The Bolton Strid has a documented 100% fatality rate. Every single person known to have fallen in has died. No exceptions, no survivors, not one.
The physics are straightforward, but merciless. The water moves through underwater caverns at enormous velocity. Anyone who enters is immediately pulled under and into the cave system. Passages too powerful to fight, too narrow to navigate. Bodies are rarely recovered intact. Some are never recovered at all, trapped permanently in the underwater labyrinth. There are small warning signs at the Strid. People notice them, people ignore them. They always have. The danger isn't visible. The surface looks calm. That calm surface has been killing people for centuries. If there's one lesson in the Bolton Strid, it's this. In nature, the most dangerous things don't always advertise themselves. Sometimes they look like absolutely nothing at all.
Yellowstone supervolcano, USA. You've seen dangerous places on this list. Radioactive islands, bioweapon burial grounds, boiling lakes, a river with a 100% kill rate. But nothing else on this list has this kill radius. Because this final location is a supervolcano sitting directly beneath one of the most visited national parks in the United States, Yellowstone, Wyoming. The Yellowstone caldera, the actual volcanic chamber, measures 34 miles by 45 miles. That's not the damage radius, that's the size of the underground magma chamber itself, sitting 3 to 9 miles beneath the surface. The last full eruption occurred 640,000 years ago. It deposited ash across half of North America. It ejected approximately 240 cubic miles of volcanic material, 2,500 times more than Mount St. Helens in 1980.
If it erupted today at the same scale, the immediate blast radius would eliminate everything within roughly 40 miles. The ash cloud would shut down aviation across the continental United States. Sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere would trigger a volcanic winter, global temperatures dropping, crop failures, famine. USGS scientists currently rate the probability of a full caldera eruption in any given year at approximately 1 in 730,000. Good odds.
They also said that about the San Francisco earthquake of 1906, the Indian Ocean tsunami of 2004, and every other statistically unlikely geological event that happened anyway. In the meantime, Yellowstone hosts 4 million visitors per year. They walk on thermal crusts inches above boiling geothermal systems. They photograph geysers powered by the same heat source that could, theoretically, statistically, geologically, be the last thing this continent ever sees. The park is beautiful. The danger is real. And the scale of what's underneath it is almost beyond human comprehension.
7 more places, 16 total. A lake that exhaled and killed a town. A river with a 100% fatality rate. A supervolcano under the most photographed park in America. Here's what I keep coming back to after researching all of this. None of these places are hunting you. They don't know you exist. The Yellowstone caldera isn't waiting for you specifically. The Bolton Strid doesn't have a grudge. They're just physics, chemistry, geology. Forces that have been operating on their own timeline for millions of years, long before humans showed up, and they'll keep operating long after. The people who died in these places weren't careless. They weren't stupid. They were just in the wrong place at the wrong moment with slightly too much confidence in their own luck. That's the only real lesson here. Confidence doesn't negotiate with nature. Which location from both parts hit you hardest? Drop it below. I read every comment. And if you want more of this, subscribe. Every week I find the places, the events, and the stories that most people never hear about. The world has more dark corners than you think.